Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I have an amazing quote channeling to read. This one is very recent, delivered on April 13th, 2024, and it covers a range of amazing topics, including the evolution of trees to third density, the wholeness of the gendered self, seeking confirmation of contact, technologies of healing, the relationship of faith and the choice in the archetypes, Lakota language, sharing that which inspires us, the catalyst of body image. Quo is an amazing group of social memory complexes that answer questions of a spiritual nature channeled through a group called LL Research. They have a history of these channelings you can find at llresearch.org. They answer questions of a spiritual nature, and I have found amazing knowledge and resonance in reading and sharing these channelings. Even on a subconscious level, I find reading and listening to these channelings to have an energetic quality to them that seem to activate something within me. We begin with Jim channeling. I am Quo, and am with this instrument at this time. We greet each present in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. It is an honor to join your group this afternoon. We feel the presence of the love of the Creator within each entity, and this love is that which we feel is the basic nature of your journey, each with his or her own experience of traveling this journey. When we address your queries this afternoon, we would ask each present to take that response from us into your heart and to let it resonate there as much as it can. Where there is a lack of resonance, please drop that portion of our response so that only that which resonates with you remains with you. In this way, you are a service to us in giving us more freedom to speak, knowing we shall not hinder your journey by what we say. At this time, we would ask if there is a query with which we may begin. Quo, I would ask, in the raw material, when Ra speaks of the male is female and the female is male, how does that resonate in today's world with this coming out through today all over the world and the physical entities that are not ready for that or don't understand it? What is your reply? I am Quo, and am aware of your query, my brother. The designation of the biological male and biological female as being both the male and the female is a facet of the nature of each entity, not only within this third density illusion, but within the entire creation, where the male and female qualities biologically and metaphysically are necessary for each entity to be able to experience its catalysts, its lessons of learning, and to understand, if we may use that term, that these lessons contain that which is of the feminine and the masculine principles. These manifest as the reaching for more experience by the male principle and the awaiting, the reaching by the female principle within each entity. This is a process which allows each seeker of truth to be able to see itself and the world around it as a reflection of the Creator that has all of these qualities within it as a basic function of its ability and desire to know itself in those qualities which you see as the male and the female. These qualities are that which have within them the fullness of the Creator expressed in the male and female seeming separation. This seeming separation of these two qualities reflects the seeming separation of each entity within each density from the one infinite Creator. For in truth, all is one at all times, but in order to make progress upon the spiritual journey, it is necessary for this seeming separation or polarity to manifest in each seeker, so that at the end of the journey, all shall become again as one. There will be no seeming separation, there will be unity, and the purpose of the male and the female have been fulfilled at all levels of experience, from the individual seeker of truth in third density through all of the densities until all is coalesced once again into the one infinite Creator, and then the dance begins again. Is there a further query, my brother? No, thank you, Quo. I am Quo, and we thank you, my brother. Is there another query at this time? I have a query, Quo. In the round robin today, I spoke of, and Jim spoke of, an experience I had recently where I recently received very positive messages from a group of beings who identify themselves as, and it just says name. I was wondering if Quo would be able to confirm that these beings are, as we suspect, the social memory complex of the, and then it just says name. and if Quo could offer any comment or insight about this contact, this communication. I am Quo, and I'm aware of your query, my sister. We find this is a query to which you are already in a great deal of awareness of the response being that which you know in the deeps of your being is the one creator that exists as your deep mind, and which can confirm to you and for you that which you feel is true. This is a question which you ask in order that this deep mind, this fulfilling of love, the creator's love, then can rise into your conscious mind and speak to you in a manner which we feel you are aware of already. This is a kind of knowing that the conscious mind frequently questions, for the conscious mind is not totally connected to the perception of the spiritual journey. The conscious mind is often confused and feels a multitude of directions possible as answers to various questions. That is why it is necessary for the spiritual seeker of truth to move deeper beyond the conscious mind to that portion of yourself which knows the answer to each question which you ask. We feel that you are advanced enough on your own spiritual journey to know the answer to the question that you seek, especially if you utilize the technique of meditation which takes you deeper and deeper into your conscious mind, into the mind of the Creator, where the Creator speaks to you and gives you those answers which you desire. Is there a further query, my sister? No, thank you very much, Quo. I am Quo, and we thank you, my sister. At this time, we will transfer this contact to the one known as Trish. We are those of Quo. We are those of Quo, and we are now with this instrument. May we ask if there is a query to which we may speak? I have a question, Quo. This has to do with the second density to third density. And I was thinking of the trees that Gary was speaking of, the sequoia. So I understand from the raw material that trees are highly evolved. And I would think that the sequoia are highly evolved, and the highly evolved, I don't know if they're going into third density. In second density, they might be 2.6 or 7 on the chakra level. Like the sub-level will be 6 or 7, so they can transfer up to 3. So do they have to come into the 3.1, or are there variables on that? Or is there anything like that? We are those of Quo, and we thank you and appreciate this query, my sister. Firstly, we want to state that this kind of consideration is felt and sensed with a deep well of care we note within this questioner, and we can sense the air of respect and admiration for the second density entity which you call trees as a player on this illusory stage. Those second density entities known as trees are, as you have noted, on a scale that allows them or affords them a great deal of what you may call time. And with that time in incarnation, they are able to learn many lessons from the many years and centuries of catalyst in their roots grounded into this planet. They have a deep connection to the vibrational energy inherent in this cosmic field. That too acts as a catalytic endpoint, input for the entity known as a tree to progress and evolve, witness and observe, learn and grow. You may see that transfer of experience both between the roots of the tree and Gaia, and the observer status upon this planet of being high above and looking below as the nutrients of the growth of this entity. So indeed, there are many of this particular substrata of second density beings that have a certain higher degree of evolution within the second density field, if you will. However, this may not always be the case. We simply speak generally and would state that there are certainly instances where, just as other second density entities choose a vehicle that is new to them, that is testing them, if you will, that is providing them the space for lessons that they might progress to higher evolutionary stages. This we say to mean that there are certain second density trees who are just beginning to understand and find awareness, self-awareness, egoic awareness, and cosmic awareness. That is the vehicle which progresses them towards the third density experience. However, once a transition is made for the soul between that second density experience and the third density experience, we find that each soul is unique in its manifestation. There are certainly souls who are more available to accept new challenges, or who, in a choice in and of itself, decided to not accept challenges in the next incarnation, and therefore how they may manifest in the third density experience is not unlike to the spectrum of colors within the rainbow. There are a multitude of expressions that they may find themselves. Some may find that their third density incarnation in the beginning is that of a feeling, a sense of loss, a sense of confusion, that they are perhaps still very much figuring out this hierarchical expression of the illusion. There are those who have chosen to fully encapsulate and play within the veiled experience that they may completely forget in this incarnation their previous incarnational expressions, their previous dances in other densities. And there are certainly those that come into this density with a stronger connection by choice to their previous selves. Perhaps what we are attempting to communicate is that the wisdom that is learned is never lost. It is simply forgotten, and it is forgotten by choice that this soul came into this incarnation with a certain set of plans, a certain idealistic to-do list, if you will, for lessons, for learning, for growth, or challenge. Its experience from its previous modes may or may not be remembered in a way visually or outwardly experienced in the next incarnation, but as your scientists may say about matter, nothing is lost. All that is has been and ever will be. It simply needs to be rediscovered. It simply needs to be uncovered and remembered, and there are no wrong paths forward, just simply detours, if you will. Those entities who incarnate as trees have chosen a particular incarnation that allots them much experience in the role of observer, and the role of researcher, and in the role of note-taker, for lack of a better phrasing, and that those experiences are ever within the toolkit of that soul as it moves onward and upward. It is that kind of experience, that kind of memory-making, that photo album of incarnations, if you will, that each entity carries with them in their backpack as they move along in their journey. And in the practice of reflection and meditation, contemplation and worship, they may elect to open the photo album and potentially access earlier pages and earlier memories, and see that each dance, each play, each action, each expression was chosen and is limitless, though seemingly within the bounds of an illusion. There are untold numbers of incarnations that each entity may experience, that one may extend itself as an outreach of the Creator, attempting to know more and more about the oneness of the planet, of the universe, of the all. We must apologize on behalf of this instrument for she worries that perhaps lost the plot there for a second. And we would ask if there is a follow-up to this query, my sister. No, that was wonderful. It was so helpful, Quo. Thank you very much. Thank you. We are those of Quo, and we thank you, my sister. Is there another query to which we may speak? I have a query. Could you speak about the med beds that are coming? What is being offered now? I don't believe are the real plasma and Tektron med beds, but I've been told they're coming on the spaceships and we'll be able to attend and have variations of healing with them that they offer. Could you speak on that? We are those of Quo, and we are aware and appreciative of your query, my sister. Through this instrument, we must communicate that through her own experience and knowledge, she is unaware of these items you call med beds. However, that they are tools for healing is a point to which we feel we may speak to through this instrument and her limited specific knowledge. For you see that healing, rejuvenation, evolution are not just simply tools in a mechanical sense, not simply machines that hook up to power or that utilize energy as one may see electricity. It is that healing that is powered through catalyst. That healing is a byproduct of the dynamic between challenge and acceptance, and understanding and love. That healing may occur at any time, in any place, so long as the entity experiencing the catalyst can accept and learn and love the catalyst deeply and genuinely. That healing that at times may not appear as a physical difference for the entity, but that it may be a lesson that is as long as the incarnation, that it is a lifelong journey towards learning to accept oneself, or accept the love and support of others, or to view oneself as whole or worthy, or to view one's environs as whole and perfect. In that way, the healing is ultimately up to the self. And in so, these items which can be used to effect healing are ultimately tools that must need be accepted by the entity in its presentation of catalyzed healing for healing to occur. The responsibility, the honor, the duty, and the privilege of the healing is always within the entity themselves. There are boundless means of experiencing the catalyst, and these tools which you call med beds that utilize equipment such as plasma may affect and present catalyst in a way to an entity that allows the opening channel of healing energy to flow through. In that case, that is the love and acceptance of that catalyst that the tool presents to the self. That is not to say that there aren't tools which can affect temporary relief or physical manifestations of what you may call an easement of discomfort. These too are tools as well. They present their own sets of catalyst, and we use the word catalyst with neither positive nor negative connotation, but simply that they present the opportunity for one to experience and know oneself more deeply. Things that cause the entity to take pause, to reevaluate, or even to indulge that it may fully better understand itself. And so, my sister, we apologize that we cannot, through this instrument, specifically state whether or not these tools are effective, but can only state that it is within the entity's discernment and openness, within the entity's orientation, that the dynamic between that tool and the process of healing is determined. Again, we apologize, my sister, and we hope that our words have been helpful. However, we would ask if there is a follow-up to this query that we may further discuss on this particular topic. There's a follow-up question regarding the arrival of these galactic or extraterrestrial monoliths. There's over 300 in the world now, and it is said that they are conscious, alive objects that will help to heal our planet. Is there any information on the monoliths that you may have? We are those of Quo, and we understand and thank you for this question, my sister. The presence or the discovery of aspects of the creation that produce some sort of inspiration or feeling of familiarity are much like healing and catalysts, inherently useful for the evolution of the self to find resonance with the fellow extension of the Creator, to see for its inspirational and intentional worth by its very being as an extension of the Creator can be a potent tool for self-discovery. These extensions of the Creator are by their very design and origin, just as every atom within this illusion is alive simply in terms of the love and the light that is invested to create this manifestation. When all is seen as love and light, all is seen as alive, as moving, as conscious, as aware, as intentional, and with all varied forms of expression of the Creator, no matter what density or form it may take. It is in the investment of love and light by entities outside of itself that it may begin to learn and experience itself and others. The creation is in perfect flux, a fluidity that is constant and allows for this dynamic of discovery, this dynamic of sharing, this avenue for energy exchange that can appear as simply as whatever is before your sight, to the feeling of the wind flowing past you, to the familiarity one may feel in the presence of something outside of its illusory self. And so we may say that all things at their core have some element of consciousness, for it is a consciously created love and light-filled piece of the Creator, and that it, along with all parts of this illusion, is intentional in its expression, that the interplay between these expressions of your third density entities, your second density entities, upwards, downwards, are all in this fluid flow of the river of experience, bumping into one another, learning to move with one another, moving and learning with one another. And that each piece is an important drop within that river towards the beautiful open sea of oneness, of realization, and of the unity that underflows all. We are those of Quo, and we again appreciate this opportunity to speak through this instrument and to be among this beautiful circle of like-hearted and like-minded and like soul seekers. We dance with joy at this opportunity, and we shall at this time transfer our contact to the one known as Gary, that we may speak further to your queries. We are those of Quo. Thank you so much. Gary channeling. We are those known to you as the principle of Quo, and through this instrument's voice, we greet this circle of seeking once more, never deviating or diminishing in the energy of gratitude which we vibrate to. Have this opportunity that we may blend our vibrations with your own, learning from you, sharing that wisdom we have managed to patch together over our own long journey. We ask that our thoughts remain only to the maximum of being a springboard for your own contemplation and journey of self-discovery. We would not supplant your own authority in knowing what is true and right for you in the next step and the next. We are those of Quo and would ask if there is a question to which we may respond. Quo, I have a question. Would you be willing to speak on the concept of faith as an archetype, as in the 17th tarot card, and how that might be associated with the 22nd card, the choice, the fool? We are those of Quo, and have received and thank you for this query, my sister. For whether linked to the archetypal mind or not, these concepts and energies and realities of faith and the choice are absolutely central to the experience of the veiled third density experience in consciousness. This instrument's own study of the archetypes, as he will readily admit, is among that which he would describe as his weak point within his comprehension of that text, known to you as the Law of One, which may limit our ability to speak directly to the archetypes to a satisfactory level, but nevertheless, we will endeavor in that regard. Faith, as with the choice, are necessary portions of your journey, my sister, and the journey of all those within the third density. The fool, as represented in the archetypal mind, is a facet of that mind, that deep foundational mind which may be called upon to further clarify and articulate the choice before one in each and in any moment. For the self is offered a dual way of perceiving, experiencing, and responding to the illusion about one upon a spectrum of possibilities with two roles, that being known to you as service to others and service to self. Each moment is pregnant with both potential possibilities to move forward in one direction or the other, and bias one's consciousness to give love freely or to exploit and manipulate others, that their power may be gained. For the self is, in your veiled condition, a movement into the unknown, is a movement of faith. You may amass knowledge and life experience that seeks to understand the patterns of the illusion and the workings of your life path to this point, and use that information in a statistical or intuitive way to attempt to predict what shall transpire next. What might be the outcome of this decision? Where may this path lead if I stepped in this direction? And you may have reasonable success in that regard, but as your life has surely demonstrated again and again, ultimately you cannot know. You are met with surprise after surprise. You do not know what may be the fruit of any given decision, what may lie around the next bend of that path, which may in that moment seem so clear to your eyes. While it is possible and normal for those of your density to make their choices, thinking that they are making such a choice based upon that which they know, the further one progresses along the path in spiritual evolution, the higher one moves upward in the spiraling line of light, the more that one becomes conscious that they do not know and cannot know, which is not to say that they abandon their rational minds and their hard-won knowledge altogether, just that perhaps they use those as supplement, and they learn more and more to lean into the unknown, to trust that their work is to make the decision, as your peoples may say, let the cards fall where they may, to trust that whatever the outcome, wherever the path may lead, all is well, that the self at base in its core is perfect and cannot make a mistake. The self exercises their will in this inner ambiance of faith, which they have learned to cultivate. They place their foot, as does the fool, moving forward, not knowing what may be lurking in the shadows, but also not fearing, not becoming paralyzed along the way, or sensing the uncertainty and ambiguity and shadowland of the unknown, and saying, I will remain comfortable where I am and not seek that progress forward, for there may be terrifying things up ahead. There may be unpleasant experiences awaiting for me. The fool makes that leap, not recklessly into harm's way for the sake of the thrill, for the adrenaline rush, but having tuned their instrument to their highest and best, to their spiritual journey as it blossoms before them in their incarnation. They let not the projections of the mind or the vulnerability of the self serve as a stumbling block, because they are learning and have learned and will continue to learn the great and subtle and finely balanced art of calling upon faith. Faith, by definition, is that which transcends the conceptual constructs of your consensual reality. The walls of reality, shall we say, as you know them, the rules of the game, that which your society has constructed and will destroy and reconstruct again. These are helpful containers to create a cohesive reality within which you may experience catalyst and come to know yourself, but to seek beyond them into the infinite, faith is required. Faith may be inspired by the model of the other entity, but it is that faith ultimately that exists within your own heart, and that faith that becomes more tangible as the gateway within the indigo ray opens, and the self makes contact with that which is beyond name, beyond form. It takes only a seed of this faith to transform any given seeming limitation of your third density reality. Faith transforms the situation not necessarily by changing any outer circumstance, but by awakening the consciousness of the seeker within to its true estate, wherein its consciousness is boundless. It is experiencing some situation of the illusion, but it is not in its true nature limited or trapped within such a situation. Indeed, the body, the incarnation, the finances, the health, and so forth are by nature finite and integrated into this physical stream. But the consciousness that you are in your true nature, disidentified from these forms, is eternal. And faith, and through no process of reasoning, through reasoning may be an ally to one, is that rainbow bridge to infinity, and that faculty also called upon by the fool as he or she makes their choice. Such facets of the human experiences are encoded into the third density archetypal mind that is uniquely designed by your own sublogos, your sun body, and these archetypes may be studied and called upon to help clarify these important portions of your journey, that you may operate within a clear ambiance, informed of your own mind, vivified and upright in your service to the Creator. Is there a follow-up to this question, my sister? No, thank you for this teaching, Quo. Thank you. We thank you, my sister, and would ask if there is another query at this time. We are those of Quo. Quo, I have a query. I'm wondering about the Native American language of the Lakota people in the plains. I've recently come to mind a medicine ceremony song that has verses in this language, and in singing this song recently, it has struck me how powerful these words are, and how I feel compelled or wanting to, share this with others. So I was wondering if this language, this Lakota language, has any connection to creation similar to Sanskrit, or what are the spiritual principles behind the power I'm feeling from this language, from these words. We are those of Quo, and we thank you, my sister, for this query. Indeed, as you know, some languages of your peoples are that which is constructed with less illusory distortion, shall we say. They are closer, as you may see, we correct this instrument as you may perceive it, to the pure third density aspect of the sublogoic mind. Each collection of symbols and signs, vocalized in sound vibration complexes and encoded in squiggly lines, is not, shall we say, disconnected from creation. Each has its own lineage that can be traced back to the language of the Logos itself. That primal spark of communication and vocabulary that transpires between seemingly separate parts in the manyness of the one Creator. That language, which you describe as Lakota, is, we may say, less distorted than most of those more complex societies. This language having a closer relationship with the earth about those through whom this language evolved. It rings with many, many lifetimes of reverence for your Mother Earth. It encodes an awareness of the divine which flows through all things, which those of your other more complex languages have moved away from, shall we say, to some degree, in that illusory spectrum of distance and closeness of purity and impurity. And indeed, thanks to the many generations who came before and used this language of sacred purposes for opening pathways into those subtle and non-physical realms, these too are words of power in their own way, which when used and invoked and vocalized with a being vibrating with an open heart and a dedication to the seeking and serving of the one Creator, may cause resonances within the self and those inner planes of those who have worked with this language and these people, even those who may have no historical association, shall we say, but may respond to the call of this particular vibration as vibrated by these particular word forms and word energies. That you feel this resonance and connection to this language is, we may suggest, a pathway worth considering and pursuing upon your own journey. Is there a follow-up to this question? We are those of Quo. Thank you so much, Quo. I just have a brief follow-up. I am when I sing the song, and as I've been singing this song, I have had a strong feeling to sing this song to others, to share their words in the song with other beings. I was wondering if you could speak to that feeling I have to share this with others, where that comes from. We are those of Quo, and I have received your query, my sister. We may offer what certain forms as they manifest in your world, be they song, art, architecture, and so forth, have various sorts of properties. Some which may be more shareable than others, some which may compel the sharing more than others, some which may be desired to be shared by others. Whatever the particular form, this impulse to share is not unique to the song. We may say, this impulse to share exists within all beings, both negatively and positively oriented. For the negatively oriented entity seeks to share its love of self, insisting that the other self also participate in this loving of the one doing the sharing, to the point that they are glad to enslave the other self to this proposition. They are called upon a quest of conquest, which is their dark and negative way of air quotes sharing. The positively oriented entity conversely wishes to give and share freely without expectation of return in order to be of service to others. That service may take on many forms, but some of its essential qualities include the desire to see others loved, cared for, respected, their free will remaining intact and unabridged. The positively oriented entity wishes to uplift others, if possible, to add beauty to the world, to be authentically themselves and radiate that out freely. This is a journey that involves the lessening of self-judgment, the accepting of the self as it is, the permission, as you may see it, to be the self in a world where the self may be receiving cues which reflect back to the self, that the self may not be the self, that the self should conform and be other than that which is true to the self. It is a long journey of knowing, accepting, and trusting the self to be able even to be who the self is within your illusion, regardless of the vibrations of other self. This is not a recipe for insensitivity. It is rather just a quality of authenticity to discover that which lights you up inside, as you may say. This song or that song, to feel alive and animated and wanting to share this with others, that they may be availed the same opportunity of being similarly uplifted, energized, connected, and open, is, if we may qualify this, a beautiful impulse, my sister. If you could but see a model of a society which as a whole has chosen the service to others path, you would see free sharing and giving of the self across the board, system-wide, each individual sharing that which inspires each individual, the song, the poem, the story as it were, and the whole thus being benefited. We too receive your song, my sister, the song in the form of the Lakota configuration and the song of your being, for each is a note within the chorus of the Creator, and each comes into harmonious relationship with each. Each note finds its proportion relative to the whole, that melody may be made. At this time, we transfer our contact to the one known as Jim. We are those of Quo. Thank you, Quo. I am Quo, and I'm once again with this instrument and would ask at this time if there is a final query to which we may respond. Yes, Quo. We have a question from M2 who asks, we have a question about body image, beauty standards, and self-esteem. There's been a social movement for body positivity, calling on society to help support people who feel uncomfortable with their bodies and to challenge traditional beauty standards. Can Quo help us to understand how we can relate to body image challenges and beauty standards upheld by society? What lessons can we learn from the heavy emotional burden these aspects of our lives carry, and can our appearance be affected by pre-incarnative decisions? I am Quo, and I'm aware of your query, my brother. This is a query which redounds to the very nature of each person's self-image, the image of the body, that supposedly reflects higher qualities of mind, of spirit, that are not usually felt within the workaday world, shall we say, the society which moves within the third density illusion in the way of being ignorant that it is an illusion. So there are images that are considered appropriate and acceptable by the society at large, the mundane world, that will allow a certain gradation of images that are more or less acceptable according to these imaginary and illusionary definitions. It is our opinion that this is a way of causing certain people to feel less than acceptable, so that there may be a kind of control of thought that allows some to rise above others within the status of the workaday world. We would suggest that the actual body image is that which is unique to each entity, and that each entity of a conscious nature of the spiritual journey that it is upon then can become aware that there is a great variety of acceptable images that reflect the inner love and light of the one Creator that lives and moves and breathes within each entity, whatever their physical expression is, as the second density creature that carries you about in this third density illusion. Thus, we would suggest that for those who are unable to feel acceptance by the greater society because of not measuring up to a certain image, remember that this is an illusion, which teaches that there is within each self that which is of love, of light, and of unity, the Creator manifesting in a unique way. In this type of perception, then one breaks the bonds or the molds of the generally accepted image and can for itself create its own image that reflects the true nature of its being that may indeed be pre-incarnatively chosen. For one reason or another, it could actually be that a reason for choosing a certain body that is not acceptable to the workaday world is to learn how to accept that which is truly within oneself and not accept the definitions provided by the world around us. And thus, the pain and suffering that comes from not being acceptable according to the image of the body, the creation of the body, what the body looks like to the outer eye, is that which provides a path of seeking. And the learning and defining that there is true acceptability within whatever the body image is, whatever kind of form or function has been chosen prior to the incarnation, to be reflected within the incarnation. Thus, we see that this type of image of any kind can be a means of pursuing the spiritual journey in a way which most people are not aware is possible. We encourage each to seek the Creator within, for the Creator is within each and expresses in a way that is unique to each, that is appropriate for each, that provides a spiritual journey back into unity with the one infinite Creator. As the illusion of separation has penetrated all, become again as one, the image of the one, the eternal, the infinite, all that is within the one infinite creation. At this time, we will thank each instrument here today for their participation in the attempt to share our philosophy of the unity of creation that focuses upon the love of the Creator, which has created everything in the illusion and the creation out of light. Each of you is love. You are light. You are unity. And we speak now to those who are not actively channeling but are doing the very same thing as they are attendees at this session. They are channeling their love and light through their life in this great journey. This is a journey that we are all upon. However you work upon your path, whatever kind of channeling you are experiencing and providing as an inspiration to those about you, and to that child's self within that occasionally feels, but it is not appropriately constructed as a physical vehicle. At this time, we shall take leave of this group and this instrument, thanking each for welcoming us in your love and light. We leave you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We are known to you as those of Quo, Adonai, Adonai Vasu, Boragus. So I just love this channeling, and I love the description of the trees evolving. Entities that are forced to be observers, researchers, ones that take notes, that look down upon others. Maybe I was a tree in a past life, or I resonate with the trees. Check out my previous episodes. I have a short story that I read on this channel of trees that become conscious and end up being essentially controlling the earth. And I also had an amazing experience at Mount Shasta where I felt like I became the voice of the trees. The trees were communicating with me, and ever since that moment, wherever I go, the trees are constantly talking to me. And if you open yourself up to this, you can communicate with the trees. The trees are wonderful, but as they explain here, they experience time differently. And as I've tried to access the consciousness of trees, it's almost like you have to change your concept of time to properly sit with them and hear them and communicate with them. And so I love the idea that there is planets of third density trees experiencing life. When I feel the wind, it's the trees. That's how they move. There's so many aspects of the trees I could share with you, and I found that part of this channeling to be very interesting. I also am fascinated with the Lakota language, and perhaps I'll put together a meditation where we can read some of the Lakota language. As they say, it has very spiritual and powerful aspects to it. I love the discussion of faith and the archetypes of the tarot, and I very much, like them, is something I need to work on and understand the archetypes as they are discussed in the Law of One. Please tell me your favorite parts of this channeling. You can find all the other channelings in the Quo playlist on my channel, and you can read these channelings at llresearch.org. There are all the channelings I've read and so many more, thousands and thousands of channelings over many, many decades. You can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com, and I'd love to share my art with you. You can find it with lots of new art that we just recently put on the website. You can find it at www.newearth.art. I'm sending all my love and light to you and hope you have an amazing day. I love you so much. Thank you for sharing these moments with me. It is an honor to read these words to you and share this time with you. And welcome to the Reality Revolution.